Hey guys, my name is Mr. Nichols and I'm going to be your guys' forensic science teacher this year. So this is my 5th year teaching at Columbine High School, and I actually also teach biology as well. So being that we're going to be starting remote this year and we're not going to be able to meet in person, so I can show you all of the ins and outs of what to expect this semester, I created this video to kind of show you a little bit of how this class is going to be structured and really what it's going to look like, especially in a remote setting. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how some of the nuts and bolts of this class, forensic science, are going to work. So first off, you already know me. My name is Mr. Nichols. So this will be my 9th year of teaching overall. So I have my bachelor's degree in biological science and secondary education, and I have my master's in learning design and technology. So this is my contact information. I'd recommend pausing it and recording any of this if you'd like. Definitely the best way to reach me is by email, but I will be using Remind as well. So here's the information for that. Again, feel free to pause the video. All right, so overall, the purpose of this course is to get your student exposed to what a day in the life of a real criminologist or a forensic scientist would be like. So whether they're a lab tech doing some lab technique practices, we try and emulate as many things as possible and try and give your student an authentic experience. So I've really tried to cut out a lot of the fluff and a lot of the busy work to try and expose your student to real world practices. So that's kind of our overall goal for this course. So these are each of the topics. So we start off by looking at some famous forensic scientists, and then how they've kind of established our current understanding of crime scene investigation and lab practices. Then we start to look at the logistics of how a crime scene investigator analyzes a crime scene and processes a crime scene. So we go through step-by-step processes for how that takes place. So then we start to look at blood, and most specifically blood spatter. So we look at specific patterns of blood and try and figure out what this blood spatter tells us about what happened at the particular crime scene. And then obviously we take a good chunk of time talking about DNA fingerprinting, since that can be such a powerful piece of evidence in the courtroom. So then we start to transition into lifting fingerprints. So we teach students how to lift fingerprints and also how to read them. And hopefully we'll be hybrid when we're in our fingerprint unit, so we'll actually be able to have students lift fingerprints. Then we start to look at profiles and criminal psychology. So we start to look at serial killers, people like Ted Bundy. And we start to think about how we make profiles and what exactly goes into that and how they can be beneficial for investigations. And then we start to look at trace evidence, really small, oftentimes microscopic evidence, things like dirt that's left behind from a shoe or a hair or shards of glass or paint chips, things like that. And then we end the semester with looking at bullet trajectories, so figuring out where a bullet came from by looking at the entrance and the exit wounds on a victim. We look at the actual fracture pattern of bullets to try and match them. And then we also talk a little bit about toxicology. So what are some of the chemical tests that are done to determine if there was a particular substance in someone's body at a particular time. All right, so moving into kind of some more of the logistics. So our overall grading breakdown, we do have categories. So tests and assessments, which they will look a little bit different in remote, will make up about 40% of our overall grade in this class. And then assignments and classwork, that's our typical day-to-day stuff, is going to be about 35%. And then lab work, so that's mostly what we'd be doing in hybrid, will take up about 25%. Now, I should say the students that are 100% remote, they will still be doing labs, but they will most likely look a little bit different. So they will still have grades going into that category. Now, I know this slide is a little bit wordy, so if you'd like to pause it, you're welcome to kind of read through it. But this is really kind of the specifics of how I am going to be running my class, which is going to be different from how some other teachers are going to be running their remote environments. So this is kind of picking and choosing some things that worked really well in the spring and kind of tweaking them to hopefully make them be successful for your student. So what I've decided that I'm going to be doing for this course is we are going to have just a weekly agenda. So basically on Monday morning, the beginning of the week, I'm going to post a document on Google Classroom that has everything that's going to be going on that week. So most of our assignments are going to be due on Sunday. So we post on Monday morning, and then that following Sunday night at 11:59 p.m., all of those assignments will be due. Now, there are a couple exceptions to that, so you will need to kind of read through the agenda. But we will have one exception that'll be every single day, and that is our Enter the Crime Scene. This is going to serve as our attendance. So basically, every day that we have class, your student needs to complete that Enter the Crime Scene. So if you see that your student is marked absent in Infinite Campus and they say that they were there, chances are they didn't complete the Enter the Crime Scene. So that must be done every day that we have class by 4 p.m. So make sure that you have your student read through the agenda very carefully. Now, another piece that I kind of put together from the spring was that parents don't have a good way to access what the students see in Google Classroom. They don't have their own separate login, which is one of my gripes about Google Classroom. So what I'm hoping to do to bypass some of that is to give any parent who wants it or guardian access to the same weekly agenda document that your student will see. And I'll actually show it to you here in a couple minutes. But basically, you'll be able to see 90% of the information that your student sees in Google Classroom. The only thing you won't see are our announcements that I post on our stream, and then also any specific course documents. You won't necessarily see those unless you log in and look over your student's shoulder. But that's basically it. So if you want to pause it and you can kind of look at this link and type it in, I would recommend bookmarking this document because this is going to be a landing page for all of our weekly agendas for the rest of the semester. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment. So real quick, some general just ways to be successful in remote learning environments. The biggest and most important key to success for students is communication. Communication with their teacher, communication with their lab partners or fellow students, and this needs to happen early and often. So a lot of the times I hear a lot of students who say that, I don't check my email very often. You need to get into the habit of doing that, especially in a junior senior elective course. You're knocking on the graduation's door here, and if you're at the workplace and you're not responding to emails, that's going to definitely cause some negative implications for you. So definitely make sure you're having that contact early and often. Don't wait until 3 weeks after an assignment was posted to ask a question that you had. If you had difficulty accessing it or you don't know where to find it, or don't wait until like the end of the semester, which some students did in the spring. So another big thing that I saw in the spring is that oftentimes students will just open up an assignment, click turn in, and have not done anything in it. The lucky thing about Google Docs is that they're live documents. So any changes that students make, we can see on our end. So if there's ever any contention, if a student says that they did something and I don't see it on my end, and feel free to reach out, because chances are they just clicked the turn in button and the document is still blank. And I'd be happy to show you the document if that is what the situation calls for. So just feel free to reach out with any questions with that. But keep that in mind that was something that a lot of students did in the spring. So obviously in remote learning environments, there's a lot of temptation to cheat. So I'm going to be very diligent. I'm going to put a lot of energy and effort into trying to find students that are cheating, to find students that are just copying things off the internet or just, getting answers from their friends. That really undermines what we're trying to do here. And I really want to try and weed that out wherever I can. So please keep in mind that if a student is caught cheating, they will get a 0 on that assignment. And if it becomes a repetitive thing, it will be escalated to administration and there will be repercussions. So please make sure that your student does not just, type something in straight from Google. this should all of the answers of anything that we do this entire semester should be in your students' words. It's fine if they do research and look at things, but they need to ingest that information and then put out their interpretation of it. All right, and then in addition to that, I know a lot of students found that it really helped if they had a space at their home where they just did their schoolwork, where they could eliminate as many distractions as possible and just focus on their schoolwork. So if that's possible for your student, I highly recommend doing that, even if it's somewhere outside. They can just take like a nice chair and go and sit outside if there's a lot going on inside of their house or wherever they live. That might be a better situation for them. So just keep in mind that having a space where you are only doing your schoolwork and you are eliminating any distractions, and also having a period of the day where you can work and be undisturbed, or at least reduce the disturbances as much as possible, that's definitely going to help them be successful. And also the last thing I'm going to say with this is to treat any digital space as if it was in a physical classroom. I had some students who were, posted videos and things like that, and they were not very cognizant of what was sitting behind them, and they had some inappropriate things, and there were consequences that came with that. So just make sure that your student is treating any digital platform, any videos that you're posting, anything that you're typing, any pictures that you're taking, as if it's happening inside of the classroom. So that should handle that for you. Okay, so really quickly, I'd like to kind of show you a brief rundown of what Google Classroom is going to look like. That's our main LMS, our main learning platform for this course. So here are the class codes. You can feel free to pause and document those if you'd like. So let me go ahead and pull this up. So this is our 3rd hour forensic science class. So one thing that might be different from some of your other classes is I do post all of my assignments in just the classwork tab. So when you log in, all that you're going to see on your stream is just any announcements that I've made. So the stream, I noticed a lot of students would get lost in it, and I know it's kind of designed to function like a social media site, and they're just used to scrolling through their stream, but I found that created a lot of issues for students. So I want to stress them to go into the classwork tab because it's much more organized, as you can see here. All right, so we've got our general course documents. You're welcome to flip through those if you'd like. So we've got our safety contract, our syllabus, but the part I do want to show you is the parent document that I made for our weekly agendas. So this is what that looks like. So basically this has our first week in it. So I can go ahead and you can access it with that link. I'd recommend bookmarking this page so that way you can easily access it. And so I'm going to fill in all of the agendas for the entire semester here. So here is week 1, and then this also lists what's due at 11:59 on Sunday. And there's also this reminder that the Enter the Crime Scenes will be due every day at 4 p.m. any day we have class. Okay, so this is where the daily Enter the Crime Scenes will be, which it's basically just a brief Google form. It's usually really not very long. I intentionally make them shorter. So they would just go ahead and click on this here. They will need to make sure that they keep track of the dates, and I'll put the dates in the gradebook. So that's where that will land. And then here is our first weekly agenda. So now when I post this, I'm going to post all of the documents underneath it that they'll need to complete it. So I'll go ahead and open this one up. And so this is our weekly agenda for the first week back. So starting with Monday here. So it has a very detailed list of everything that we're going to be doing. And then also sometimes I'll put instructions in here if it's something that might be a little bit more difficult for students. I might put tutorials in here. I might put extra videos. So yeah, that's what this will look like here. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that so we will have some times where we have synchronous learning. So basically that means that we are going to meet together one-on-one. Sometimes that's going to be whole class. Sometimes it's going to be individual. On this first day, which you can see right here where it says synchronous, we're going to have a Google Meet, and we're all going to meet as a class. So this has the date and the times that we're going to be doing that for each of our the three periods of forensic science that I teach. So to be honest, most of the documents that I'm going to be posting can be completed asynchronously. meaning that if your student has time on a Monday to complete all of their work for the week, or if they have enough, if they finish everything for that day on Monday and they want to get ahead on Wednesday, they can do that. They should be able to do that. But just keep in mind that those assignments will be due at 11:59 on the following Sunday. Okay, and then I also list what's specifically going to be due. Okay. All right. And then, so last but not least, and you might have seen this in there, that the one thing from Monday that we're going to have that'll be due on the first Sunday, so this will be due on August 30th, is our remote learning readiness survey. So this is where each of our units will be as we go along. It'll be unit 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so on. Okay. So the last thing I do want to remind you, obviously, your junior and senior parents, you probably already know this, but you can be a guardian in Google Classroom if you'd like, and you'll get a weekly summary of how your student's doing, if they have any missing assignments, things like that. So if you're interested in that, feel free to just send me an email. Okay. All right. So as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to message me. I'd be happy to answer them. So thank you so much. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this here, and I look forward to having a great semester, and I can't wait to learn and grow with your students. So thanks again, and I hope you have a fantastic evening. Thank you. Take care.